Namu Myoho Renge Kyo. Namu Myoho Renge Kyo. Namu Myoho Renge Kyo. All right. Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. Thanks for your support. Thanks for being here. Don't forget, please like and subscribe. Mainly subscribe to this channel. It helps the algorithms make this channel more available to more people. It comes up in search results a little higher, so we're locatable. It helps expand the Sangha and its Bodhisattva work, right? So for those of you who do that consistently, great appreciation. Thank you from all of us. And for those of you who are able to do financial donations through PayPal or through Patreon, or who can send materials, candles, incense, that kind of thing, any means of support that way helps to keep the channel rolling. Some of you, equipment. I've gotten amazing contributions to this broadcast for research. One of my computers is just totally about collecting research and processing images, photography, what have you. This computer, this laptop, is doing all the video capture work, the production. Post-production is still happening on this computer so far. I just don't have the facilities to do more. But all of your support, whether it's subscriptions to the channel, buying books, mandalas, or donations, I can't describe how appreciative I personally am, as well as all of us who are benefiting from this study resource. Yeah, thank you. All right. Now, I think we need to talk about ego soul. It keeps coming up in almost every single video as I read through this sutra, the Diamond Sutra, the Lankavatara Sutra. It continually comes up, right? When we get to the Lotus Sutra, not so much, because the Lotus Sutra isn't. You'll recall that all of the previous sutras to the Lotus Sutra are about teaching expedient means to the thoughts and minds of others. The Lotus Sutra, though it's also directed to you and I, is a teaching that's based on the self-experience of Shakyamuni himself, of Siddhartha Gautama, and the attainment, how he attained through the different examples he gives and stories he gives, the things that he had to break through in order to attain that clear-minded Buddha-ness. So it's about self-realizing, yeah? So by that time, we're not really talking so much about an ego soul. That's assumed knowledge. You understand this yet. And yet today I still get emails on occasions or comments that have profound confusions about it, to the point that those few people think that the realms, the 10 realms, the 3,000 realms, or any of that is something that occurs to us in the mind. Certainly, they'll accept that. But there's always the caveat that it's also experienced in the soul, the ego soul, and validating the soul. Sorry, you're just completely wrong. But then I thought about it some more, and I meditated on it, I chanted about it, and I thought, well, here, maybe there's a different way to say this that doesn't seem so confrontational. But I really believe in the Shakabuku methodology of breaking those misbeliefs. That is not Buddhism. Those 10 worlds, those 3,000 realms, are a teaching in Buddhism of understanding the mechanisms of the mind in order to release them, in order to not be in them. So to then say that they also occur in a permanent self does a twofold error. Number one, it admires you in the errors, doesn't provide for your emancipation. It's an odd kind of justification for the, what's it called, the hell of incessant suffering. We don't have to be in that hell. That's the whole point. And then the second, deeper, I think, misunderstanding is that there is an extant ego soul. There just isn't. But the samsaric mind constructs one in order to rely on it, which is what that statement is doing, as a point of being. And it simply isn't. Shakyamuni exhaustively worked to try to clear up that wrong thinking. And yet still, people who read Nichiren's doctrine, who practice with whatever group or sect or whatever, I'm done chasing that down. It's all about individual practice. Your Buddhahood. And if you're maintaining thoughts in your mind that you live in some sort of duality, isn't that the whole problem? That you have a spiritual awakening, sure, but I definitely have this ego eternal soul, then I'm sorry to tell you, you're not practicing Buddhism. You don't understand it at all. That ego soul that you keep wanting to say is here and now is the illusion, the imagination of your samsaric mind creating that thought as though it were real. And I don't know how many ways I can walk around this any more than Shakyamuni has in every single sutra over and over and over again. That is foolishness. That foolishness is born of, created by, constructed by greed and manipulation. That's attachment. Why is it greed? Because attachment is about having. And as soon as you have, you want to have more. Greed, avarice, desire. That is the entire justification for Buddhism. To not be there, to stop identifying this constructed, imaginary aberration of a permanent self. You could look at greed, for instance, as something that needs to be fed. But what's not being considered in that act is what is being fed. Endlessly. That's samsara. That perceiving that there is nothing to feed because everything is fed already, happening moment to moment, that doesn't need to be fed by desire and accumulation, the warehouse, then the feeding, the whole idea of feed, it just evaporates. That's emancipation. That's the great aha moment, the light in the attic. Oh, not hungry, world of hunger. not competing for what I think I'm hungry about, world of animality. Do you see? All of those worlds, even if all you want to talk about is the 10 base worlds, they're all constructions of samsaric identifying. Even Buddhahood. Yeah, I said it. Yeah, it's one of the 10 worlds. But as one of the 10 worlds, that 10th world of Buddhahood is the portal that takes you away from the rest of them and allows them to exist without tendrils, without hooks, as simply observations of the process of life. Your mind moves out into this much greater perception of the totality of life. It's no longer anchored by these facilitatory little illusions. They're no longer necessary. They just become sparks to watch. Wow, look at that. Because that's where we really are. That's where life is. Doesn't include being admired in the ego soul thing. That's just senseless. That's just avarice for being, self-being, samsaric being. That's not the being we want. We want the being of complete experience that isn't attached to all of that, that perceives it, walks among it, but is unaffected. I wrote down again yesterday. I was feeling it as we were reading the Diamond Sutra. You are everything and everything is you. Remember, I pulled that line out of a, is that the Stylistics? But I mean, it's a very Buddhist statement. Although, in that love song, I think I saw somebody who looked just like you, walked like you too. I thought it was you, right? I can't sing, but you are everything and everything is you. That's a song of tremendous identification and affection and love expressed samsarically. We can all relate to it. In many ways, it's achingly beautiful, right? We've all felt that kind of wanton desire, release, just seeing our whole world through our attainment of a relationship with that other person. So much so that every thought we have about everything always refers to that presence of that other person. Everything is you. And you, if I could just have you, that's all I would ever need. You are everything, and everything is you. Yeah, you can see as a Buddhist how, yikes, that's quite a dedication to ego soul, isn't it? So the question then becomes, from another song, although I modified it a little bit, how big is your love? I think the lyric is, how deep is your love? But I changed it a little bit because if you could sense when you're chanting to your mandala, focusing your mind on Buddha-ness, now, Buddha, Buddha, Buddha-ness, largesse, understanding, being in the totality of life, you would have this same sensation, but about the entire process of life, the universe itself. Yes, it might include relationships with others, but those are They're just little tiny portions of the totality. And the totality exists throughout time. Look through a telescope. Heck, look through a magnifying lens, binoculars. You're traveling through time. Literally. Buddha-ness is timelessness. If that is everything, which scientifically proven is, then everything being you, your witnessing, your observation, your self-perception of the largesse, what is that like? If one person can make you feel like that song does, how much does the entire entity of time, space, life, how gargantuan is that in relation to that individual relationship? Or maybe you're polyamorous and you have 2 or 3. I don't care. The scale is just unfathomable, isn't it? Isn't that what we're after? Isn't that the life, this life we're experiencing right now? Isn't it about perceiving the grandeur of life and bringing it into our every moment's existence in this brief little time span we have that we call a human life? It includes everything is you. And you are everything. How big is your love? See, that's a definition of love that people rarely speak about, if they're even aware. If love is even the correct word. That love, that passion, that is enlightenment, that is awakening, that is Buddhahood, that is tremendously compassionate. Because if everything, the universe is you and you are the universe, then your sense of being, the weight, the sheer size, time, space, embrace is so overwhelmingly magnificent in each and every thing that's manifest from it. How could you not be in awe? How can you not be like a 4-year-old at Christmas? Or whatever holiday or your birthday, whatever celebration you're most excited about. Other than religions, of course, that's all. I mean, actually understanding, experiencing fully your life. Whatever that imaginings you have about ego and soul, they would just evaporate. Your ego soul is not that. Your ego soul is a great, big, huge red stop sign that says, oh, your love is this much. Because your love is all about self-love, self-having, self-existing, self-be here forever, self-permanent. So go ahead. Shakyamuni has identified that for 50 years plus of teachings as the source of suffering. Do you want ego soul? Well, everybody's got it. It's false. When thoroughly analyzed, it's totally ridiculous. But if that's what you want to hang your hat on, don't call it Buddhism. Don't call it Buddhism. It is not Buddhism. Buddhism identifies it as the problem to be solved. Attaining a mindset that perceives the totality of life, that's Buddhism. That is emancipation. That is liberation. I don't know. If you have a more clever way of saying it, let me know. But please don't write me and tell me that I don't know what I'm talking about because other Nichiren groups or sects believe in a soul. I know. I've read it. I've read some stuff from some Nichiren Shu authors who believe in, or the Jains. They're not even Buddhists, but they appropriated a lot of Buddhist thinking and still remain stuck on a soul. Look at the Tibetans. They still believe in reincarnation. That's such an aberration. Really, it's stupid. We'll just say it. It's very juvenile and childish to think that way. But you know what? You're free to think that way. No problem. Just please, don't call it Buddhism. Don't. It's not. We have half a century of oral teachings translated into countless languages that have identified that it's not. And yet, I don't know. I wish I knew how to change all of that. A little reminder to take my noon medications. What an appropriate moment. They're medications for my health, not my sanity. Although, yeah. Please don't do that. And, you know, if you're going to make that comment on any one of my videos, please make the effort to watch some more videos. Because this subject comes up constantly. I may not identify it and nail it every single time, but it's in Shakyamuni's words. So absorb. Teach yourself. Right? This is why I don't call myself a teacher, because no matter how many times I make this video, unless you take it on yourself to go, oh yeah, that makes sense. Oh yeah, it does say that in every one of these sutras, repeatedly, blah, 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 blah. Hell, that's all we read about in the Lankavatara. There's some 60 videos there. How do you still not get it? Look, I love you guys. I want each and every one of you to attain enlightenment. So yeah, I'm a little frustrated if one of you who I know, who's communicated with me every now and again, is making this kind of a statement that the 10 worlds are in the ego soul, then you've befuddled yourself with a lot of rhetoric that, see, you're still constructing it. No, that is not Buddhism. As Nichiren said, single-mindedly seek Buddha. Single-mindedly. Not your ego. Buddha isn't in your ego. It's not in your soul. Because that's a made-up thing that does not exist. Remember impermanence? Remember anatman? Remember skandhas? Remember the nidana? I mean, how many of Shakyamuni's teachings do you have to go through to finally get that aha moment that, oh yeah, everything I perceived of mind only is not a permanent extant thing to satisfy. That's the attachment problem. Please, Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. I don't know how much daimoku it'll take, but if you're still stuck there, please continue chanting. You have to figure this out. You must. And I appreciate your practice, because that's the only thing that will release you from that foolishness. Okay, that's enough for this one. Ego, soul. I guess we'll chalk this one up and I'll make another Diamond Sutra video. We'll see how many times Shakyamuni talks about this very problem again. What I called during the Lankavatara the Mahamati problem. Well, there it is. I think that'll be the subtitle to this video. Self/ego, the Mahamati problem. Yeah, it works. Thank you again. I will continue making these videos, and I hope that you continue your practice to teach yourself about your own Buddha-ness. This doesn't matter what I say. Ultimately, I can't give you Buddha-ness. Nobody can. Only you can achieve that. I look forward to it. Bye for now.